software developer to a CEO, what I learned in 1 year of starting up. So what I learned, as in what Gaurav Sen learned. So Gaurav Sen is our speaker today. He's the founder of InterviewReady. He took InterviewReady from being just a YouTube channel to a full-fledged startup. So he's going to be sharing his thoughts with us. Before we go into his session, I'm Mansa. I'm a part of the marketing team at PayU. We do these sessions under our Upstart and CodeUp banner. Upstart and CodeUp is a way of us reaching out to startups and entrepreneurs and other developers out there in the hope that we are able to empower them through these series. We bring in subject matter experts like Gaurav here to talk about a variety of topics, whichever makes sense to our audience. So I hope you all have a great session, and do our chat box, our comment boxes are open for questions. Do drop in your questions. Thank you so much. Over to you, Gaurav. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Mansa. Thank you so much for making this possible. So, guys, everyone, hello. Welcome to this session where we'll be talking about how, if you're a developer or if you're, let's say, somebody who's posting blogs or on posting videos on YouTube around technical content, how can you make that switch? And in fact, the lessons here that I have learned personally are very generic. So it will probably extend to you even if you're not from a technical background. Now, there's about four major things or four major lessons that I learned before making this transition from a technical role to a entrepreneurial role. So, the first one, I think most of us talk about this, is what do I do? How do I start? Where do I go? So, and a lot of people, what happens with them is they pick on one idea and they say, this is the idea that I'm going to try out. If I want this idea to succeed, so I'll just share my whiteboard so that this looks more impressive, while I'm drawing it. It's the same points, but still. So let's assume this is you. Okay, I'm actually not making a joke. This is a real thing. People have a single idea, and then they get fixated on this idea. They say that, okay, the market looks really good for this. I will try everything that I possibly can, all my resources, all my time, all my experience on this single idea. So I'll put my career on the line. Now, there's quite a few reasons why this is not a great idea. One of them is, like, how do you do market research? Okay, and I'm not going to give any fancy terms over here. I'm going to give you practical ways to do a little bit of market research. The second thing is, are you ready? Means that do you have enough savings? Are you safe to start your own company? And the third thing would be that, is this idea making sense? So is it sustainable? Okay. Marketing research, the first one, is also, like, I know this has no relation to it, but at the same time, along with market research, you can do something called branding for yourself. You can build a personal brand before you actually go and build a product brand. So how do we do this? A lot of you might already be active on social media, and you might be seeing a lot of content. You might be consuming a lot of content on social media already. When I ask people that, hey, why don't you go on social media and start posting about the things that you know or about the product that you're interested in? For example, let's say that you're really passionate about taking mock interviews. Okay, you're interested in education, you're interested in teaching, you have good technical skills, you want to take mock interviews. So you go out there in social media and you start asking people that, I'll take mock interviews and I'll charge $10 per interview. Why is this a good idea? I mean, why is this part of market research? One, because this costs you nothing. Okay, the cost of actually putting out your proposal is nothing in this case. You're not going for Google ads yet. You're not going for Facebook ads. A lot of companies make the mistake of very quickly moving on to ads before they have an organic audience. But this is how you can start. What's going to happen here is that most likely nobody will actually accept this product. Like, nobody trusts you till you actually build a little bit of a brand, or at least if you're working in a hi-fi company in a hi-fi position, then yeah, they'll definitely come forward. But let's say nobody is accepting this proposal. What are the good things that could happen? People give you feedback. Okay, feedback even before they take the mock interview. They start asking you, can you also incorporate these things in the mock interview? The second thing is they actually start having discussions. So conversations can start here. Somebody who's interested in this messages you, and then you start getting subjective feedback on this idea. This is what I personally did. I started my own YouTube channel. Okay, when I started this YouTube channel, I had no idea that it's going to convert itself into a company. But after a certain period of time, I realized that the YouTube channel is part of making that transition from full-time software engineer to full-time company. So with this YouTube channel, what used to happen very often is people used to post comments, and generally through a likes to dislikes ratio, or views, you can tell what kind of content is popular, and through comments you can actually get a lot of subjective feedback. Okay, don't be shy before you start something like this on YouTube or on Instagram. If you have something on fashion or cooking, usually Instagram does really well. uh, don't be shy before you start, because it's not that big a deal. Okay, most of the times the only person who's judging you is you, and starting something like this is usually a very good thing. You're actually giving more to society than you're asking usually. I mean, this mock interview is something that you're asking people to take, which will benefit them. So be upfront about the pricing, uh, about what you're offering to them. So with that, we have some sort of feedback that we can get. Okay, so basic idea is just go on social media or go on the internet, make a YouTube video, make something which can get you relevant data, so that you have some idea of whether people want this product or not. Okay. The second thing, once you have an idea, is not to leave your company. Not yet. You take it to the next level. And this is how you can do it. You can either, I mean, once you start building some sort of a brand on social media, people start saying that, oh, Mansa is that person who's really good at cooking. Okay, what ends up happening then is that people start associating you with cooking, and when you say that you should buy this baking product, people say yes, we should buy that baking product. Or if Gaurav is good at gardening, then there's particular products that look nice in the house, and when I promote it, there might be some people who actually end up buying that end up buying that, and I get a commission out of it. So that's affiliate marketing. This is basically you getting commissions from companies for the number of products that you sell on your website. Why is this useful? Well, you end up making money, that is savings. But apart from that, it also gives you the confidence to sell things, and it gives you relevant data around what sells. So when you go to people and you start asking them, hey, this baking product is really good, and if they don't buy it, then you know that you're not actually selling a baking product. You are probably selling them a good birthday. Okay, these are skills that, I mean, you can read in a book, but in reality, it's more like trial and error is really useful in these cases. You can't be too businessy also all the time. Like, if you like this, then you should buy this product. No, provide, give, and then finally you can ask. Okay, there's an entire book on this, which is left, right hook, which means that when your right hand is stronger and you're actually going to get a lot from here, if all you do is use your right hand to punch, your opponent is easily going to deflect them. So instead, you do a left, you throw them off their feet. I mean, this is not technically what you're doing with the customers, right? You're doing a good thing. I mean, you're providing something of value, but you're providing, and then you're asking. That's ideally how you want social media to run. Okay. I mean, just to reiterate on this point, social media has a lot of asking happening all the time. The only way you can make a name for yourself in social media is long term. So you invest in creating channels which provide people useful content, and then finally you can start asking them to use useful products through affiliates, or by taking up contracts from companies and then giving them some feedback, uh, which will help you make money. Okay, this is the starting bit. At this point, I think you have done sufficient market research. You have data around analytics received from YouTube, Instagram. If you have your own website, that's great. If you have affiliates or contracts, that's even better. Um, let's take a 2 minute break here. And if you have any questions, I'll just answer them right now. And if you want to think about some questions, let's take that also.
No questions as of now, Gaurav, but I will just wait and forward that to you if I do get it.
Sure. Awesome. Okay, so what do we have? We have market research, which is done to some extent. Okay, everything that I'm talking about here is is active. I don't have exact numbers to tell you like you should leave on year 3 after you have built up, let's say, 1 crore rupees. No, I can't give you exact numbers. It depends a lot on the business that you're starting on. If you're starting on something which is hardware related, then even if you have 10 crore rupees, it's not enough. Basically, you have to go for external investment, right? It depends on also how much is your cost of living. If you're staying in a place which is the cost of living is low, then you don't need to save that much. While if you're staying in, let's say, Mumbai, or if you're staying in the US, the cost of living is substantially higher, so you might need to save much more. So you may need to work longer. That is one way to look at it. Or you may need to work multiple jobs or freelancing. Okay, so let's get to the second point, which is savings. Savings is something that is really interesting. Like I said, it is subjective, but here are a few things to remember when you are actually thinking about going for savings. Firstly, do you have enough to last for the next 6 months, roughly speaking? So it depends on who you are right now as a person. If you have kids who are, who are going to school and you're not very sure about the school fees and stuff, I don't know. That's a personal priority for you. Personally, I wouldn't be going ahead with a startup if I didn't save up for at least 6 months. Okay. The second thing is that you just don't want to invest in money. You also want to invest in skills. So if you're fresh out of college and you want to start a startup, okay, it's totally fine as long as you have money, which I don't know where you have from. I mean, if you have it from as a loan, I can understand. If you have investments, I can understand. Okay, that gives you savings. In terms of skills, the way you can acquire them is by actually usually working in the industry or in research, depending on, I mean, how much of this research skill can you actually map into the industry? But if you work in the industry for, let's say, a year or two, you have a very good idea of how companies function, what are the various roles in a company, and what are the processes which will help you scale out this business. Okay, even if you're working as an engineer, what ends up happening is you are usually in contact with multiple people in the organization. There's a product manager, there's a technical program manager. The product manager, what do they do? They actually make sure that the product decisions are made correctly. As an engineer, you make sure that everything is implemented correctly, nothing fails. And then you have people who are making sure that the schedules are met and all the teams are working together. That's technical program manager there. You have an engineering manager. This is like a big team. In a startup, it's usually multiple hats worn by the same person, but the general idea is the same. Even if you work in a startup for a few months, you will get a lot of skills. In fact, some may argue that you will get more skills because you are actually wearing multiple hats. Okay, so that would be in terms of savings. Pretty simple. And finally, is this business sustainable? Okay, till now you actually not made the jump. This is one criteria for passing. This is the second criteria for actually starting a business. And the third one would be something that makes you pretty sure that you should start. And that is this business sustainable? Okay, what do I mean by sustainable? Does this make sense long term? That's one question. When I say long term, it means that it means a multiple of things. Can you scale the business? So I'll just clear this screen, guys. So when I say sustainability of a business idea, I mean that can you scale this business? Okay. When I say scale, like people who produce a product can usually scale the business quite easily. For example, you make an online video course. Can you scale this? Yes. What do you need to do? You just need to store it in, let's say, Google Drive. You take money from people and you share the link of Google Drive. How much extra effort did you have to do for a second person who comes for the course? Almost nothing. You just took the payment and gave them the link for Google Drive. So in this, it is scaling infinitely. So the amount of money that you're getting is not directly proportional to the work that you're doing or the amount of effort you're putting in. It's actually not at all proportional to the initial effort investment. However, there are some other types of businesses, like for example, taking online coaching classes. Okay, live. You're going to do question and answers. In that case, the amount of money that you're making is dependent on the number of classes you're taking. So scaling is impossible. You're not providing a product, you're actually providing a service. Nothing wrong in providing a service. The only thing that we have to identify then is that how do you scale this service into a product? Like, can you hire more teachers who can do this instead of you? Can you get people who will be, let's say, instead of 10 students meeting 1 lakh students at the same time? 1 lakh is huge, but how about 1,000 students? So that at least short term, it starts looking like a product. So these are the questions that we need to ask ourselves when we're thinking about sustainability. The second one is that, is this a long-term plan? Like, if you see that right now, because of COVID, all the schools are not able to take any students, it's time that we start a product around this. And then you come up with this brilliant product which does online classrooms. And I'm praying that COVID gets over, not for your product, but if COVID gets under control totally, then what happens to your business? What's the risk? Tremendous risk, yeah. You may be happy, but your business won't be happy in that case, right? Because what's going to end up happening is that the revenue will stop, the schools will open up, and then your online classroom will not make as much money as it was initially when there was a big boom. And most of the things, like I can actually go on with a little more points here, but when it comes to sustainability, I would say the most important two things are just focus on scale and focus on long term. Everything else will fall into place. I mean, you can think about purchasing power also. You can think about many other things. You can think about whether this is a yearly thing or it's a one-time purchase. But the most important thing is, if you think in terms of scale and in terms of the duration in which your business is going to run, sustainability is taken care of anyway. Okay, so this is point number 3 actually. Point number 2 was have enough savings of skills and money. And finally, the first point was to do your market research. Okay, now finally, bonus point. Okay, what you really need to be good at if you're going to do this long term as an entrepreneur is negotiations. And why am I saying this? Because most of the things that you'll be dealing with as an entrepreneur or even as a senior executive in any company is negotiations. You'll be doing that when you're hiring people for your company. You'll be doing that when you're actually getting into contracts with other companies or other individuals. And finally, you'll be doing that even within your own team. You'll be negotiating with them as to how many hours should we work, what should we be working, what should the product be doing, what should we be working on first, priorities. Everything is based on negotiations. Negotiations, of course, is not manipulations. You're not trying to harm people. You're actually trying to do a collective good of the company. Every time that you get into a negotiation, imagine yourself being left home, back home, and you sitting there as a company representative. Okay, even in a startup, it's so useful to just think about what is best for the company. It takes away all the other issues that could be coming in a negotiation. Most often, what happens is there's a misunderstanding of what is good for the company long term and what is good for the company short term. It all goes away if you're negotiating always for long term, and it all goes away if you're negotiating for the company instead of a team or a vertical or even an individual. Okay, how do you get better at negotiations? Well, I personally have done this for a while through contracts. Okay, so on my YouTube channel, what very often used to happen is people would come forward with sponsorship deals and say that, how about we give you $200 for this? And initially, $200 was like, oh my god, I would run all around the room. But later on, I realized, okay, fine, I can always increase the price. So how about 500? And then they say 500 is way too much, it's impossible. Why don't we bring it down to $300? And then it depends on what you want to say. I mean, I always stick to the one original price, but you have to be good at negotiating without making it look like, hey, you're being unfair to me, because that creates a sort of a bitter relation between parties. And also make sure that you're not being unreasonable. Okay. I'm sure a lot of you who are watching are far better at negotiations than I am. But if you are looking for resources, you can read Chris Voss. He's got an excellent book on negotiations. You can also read a few other books like How to Win Friends and Influence People, or Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. There's quite a few good books around this, but Chris Voss, I think he's a FBI negotiator who used to negotiate hostage situations. So somebody's actually telling them that, okay, we are going to kill this person unless you pay this much, and that's the place where he's negotiating that this price is too high. So it's an interesting book. I think it's called Never Split the Difference. Right. So these are mainly the points that I was looking to share with you. Market research. This is where most people stop. So don't do that. Look at your savings. This is the next step where most people stop. Like I'm telling you, 50% of the people stop here. Market research is great. Let's just go ahead with it. What are the kind of skills you acquired till now? How much money do you have to invest? Who are the customers? All that stuff is left behind. Then comes sustainability. Like if this is like 50% of the people make the jump here prematurely, 20% of the people make the jump here prematurely, and then you will have like 20% more of the people making the jump prematurely here at sustainability. I don't know if it's premature, but okay. Does this business scale? And is it long term? You're sorted. The moment you have the skills of negotiation, you're pretty sorted. I wouldn't say your business is destined for success. Of a lot of the things in the checklist to start something. Right, guys. So, okay, I'll stop here again to take your questions if you have any, and then we can.
We do have questions, Gaurav. So this is just a very generic question, actually, probably to you, or we can think of it as a very generic one as well. But why a CEO and not why a CEO instead of CTO? Coming from a software background or a tech background, would it be make more sense if you looked into becoming the tech leader instead of the CEO in the company?
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense. So this is like, what do we do? So I'll just clear this. So there's multiple things that you can aim for. In depends on the person also. For example, there is this person on Google who I really admire. His name is Justin Uberetti. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. But he's worked at Google for a really long time, and now he's gone to some other company. So he's I think L9 engineer, and the maximum you can get to is L10. He's a distinguished engineer. He's like super super good at what he's doing. Uh, could Justin have done that by himself in a small startup? I don't know. I can't tell with surety. But they made that decision and they're very happy with it. They have built a product which has impacted a billion lives. Right now, the video conference we are having is based on the technology that they have built, which is WebRTC. Okay, so it does make sense to possibly be a tech lead or a principal engineer in companies. You will end up making a decent amount of money. You will have a lot of respect. There'll be a lot of people who will be, let's say, friends or contacts of yours. Nothing wrong in it. However, if you're going for your own company as a founder or in an entrepreneurial journey, it's a different type of game. Like there's many types of founders. Small businesses are all founders. There's high risk, because of which, I mean, not because of which, actually, there is high chance of returns. This is a chance. I should put double brackets just to make it sure. Because of which there is high risk. Okay, it makes sense for me personally. This is my own risk appetite to start something of my own and see it grow and potentially become a massive business. Okay, for example, the amount of revenue that Interview Ready is having right now is probably much more than what I would have earned as a software engineer, even working at Uber or Google. Having said that, having said that, I mean, these companies offer you something which is very important, which is something called safety. There's nothing wrong in choosing that. They might also offer you something which is very interesting called scale. Can I get 1 billion users on Interview Ready today? Absolutely not. Can I get 1 billion users on Google right now? Well, they already exist. So maybe some of the problems that you'll be solving there are so challenging technically, intellectually, that they just cannot be offered by startups right now. Okay, so it's an interesting balance. It's an interesting choice that you have to make. I would choose this because, well, it's my own product. But yeah, I mean, if you go for this, there's nothing wrong in that. Okay.
Thank you, Gaurav. One more question. So I think this was somewhere when you were discussing strategies or about building the whole system, right? Like, so
Yeah.
the question comes from Sunil saying that businesses a decade back did not have these strategies, right? But they still bloomed. So what do you have to say about that?
That's an interesting question. One of the things is there's a there's quite a few books that have been written in the last, let's say, 3 decades on how to start your own business. Okay, Mind Tree. I mean, the founder of Mindtree actually wrote a book. I think I can't remember the name of this book, but one of the things that they laid out is a very useful plan to start a business. Now, I'm sure that Elon Musk actually did not read this, and Elon Musk has a reasonably successful business. I think he's the world's richest person. Uh, I don't know how many books he read on starting a business also before he actually started reading a lot about different things. He has his own book if you want to get into detail for that. The reason why these plans are out there is not because you have to follow it to the letter. It's because it gives you a nice path, a sensible approach to actually scale your business from 1 to 3 to 4. That's the basic idea. Now, you might see that this does not make sense in your business. Maybe point two doesn't make sense in your business. Now, you need to have the insight or the tribal knowledge to know that in this particular sector, two does not make sense or two has to be changed according to me, according to my let's say according to the sector in which I am getting into, this has to be changed. But what has happened is because there have been a ton of businesses which have been analyzed, and what people have tried to do is abstract out certain actions that they took. They have tried to generalize those processes and then documented them into this. So this might be useful to you. If you don't want to follow it at all, you are welcome to do it. But also remember that most startups fail, and some of it, I mean, it is also hubris, right? We have this attitude that, hey, I know what I need to do without taking help, which may or may not work. So you're welcome to take the risk, but this might be useful. Yeah, that was a loaded statement, no? Okay. Okay. Okay, if there are no questions, so there's one final thing that I would really like to just talk about. If especially you are from a tech background, or if you are fresh out of college, or even in general, like most hackathons or most startup contests that I go to make this mistake. I mean, most of the participants there make this mistake. They have this idea that, hey, I have an idea and I have customers. Now all I want to do is be the middle person and provide this content to them for free because I'm a nice person. Uh, One of the questions that you have to ask yourself whenever you're building a business, like I said, is sustainability, which means that does this business make profits? Okay. Uh, as an entrepreneur, you cannot be shy when you're thinking about money. It's one of the most taboo subjects in all societies across the world, including like I know I might be digressing a little bit, but if you take addictions, relationships, and money, these three things are extremely taboo in most societies. So maybe we don't have a good understanding of what profits mean. Profits is something that a company earns and then it can share it not just with shareholders but actually as salaries to employees. So it enables them to actually pay salaries. It also enables them to take risks. So you might be able to build new products later on. I mean, if a certain segment of customers start asking you that, hey, make this change, your product would have been much better. I would have bought it if you would have made a change, which is a risk because you are going to be making an investment. Where is that money going to come from? You can take it out of your own pocket, but that is not a very good business idea. Primarily because this money was earned through your hard work in some company, and you're putting that into something else. So you better expect returns coming back. So in general, don't be shy when thinking about profits. Don't be shy in putting forward your point. You're not trying to. I mean, when there is a billing transaction between party A and party B, both parties are happy. Party B gets a product which they want, which is worth to them more than the money that they gave, and party A is happy because they got the money that they were looking for. So yeah, if you're especially young, then this might help. If you have worked in a company for 10 years, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Uh, because I think you've been paying a lot of taxes anyway, so it's okay. Okay, are there any other questions, or should we move forward with this?
No questions yet, Gaurav.
Okay, guys, whoever's on YouTube, you can let us know if you have any questions. If you have any questions on LinkedIn, of course, we are more than welcome to post them. I mean, you are more than welcome to post them.
The screen is off now. You're not sharing your screen anymore.
Yeah, I just removed the screen share. But if people are looking for the 4 points, then I can just share it again. Okay, this would actually help me, guys, to understand whether people have been listening. Can you tell me can you tell me any one of the four things that we discussed or any one of the three things that we talked about today? Any one point. It might be embarrassing to post it, and I know that, like, why should I type it up? But if you can, that would be great.
No responses yet. Yeah,
Okay,
sustain.
okay, yeah, got one. All right, now I'm. So this was a useful talk. Okay, sustainability is one. Yes. Anything else, guys? Market research. Okay, yeah, that's absolutely right. Thank you. Point number three is, I think it was safety. Yes. Point number 4 I won't mention is negotiations, because I mean that's something that we acquire ourselves. We can call it skill gathering, but yeah, those are the 3 things that we can use in general to make sure that we are prepared before starting a business of our own. By the way, one interesting thing to do is to actually see where you lie in a company's graph when it comes to this. Do you actually belong to the core business, which is sustainability? Do you make sure that you build the product? Are you a core part of the team? Like, for example, a lawyer firm, the lawyers are the core part of the team. IT is an enabler. So, while another thing to look at is maybe in Google, the IT team or the computer science team is the core part of it, while the legal team is a support business. So that's something that you might want to look into if you're looking for long term staying in the same company. Okay, because your growth will be really nice over there in terms of not just positions and money, but also into knowledge, which you can then use to switch to something of your own. It's one of the key things in starting your own business, and I see this very. If you work for a core organization, what ends up happening is you're um, given a lot of leeway in terms of how you do it. So accountability and responsibility and all of the other good comes in here. You also have innovation actually when you are a part of the core business. While if you're in the support role, it doesn't happen as much, and it's difficult to know what the market research is like around this vertical that you're working on. Let's say engineering, and how much money is good enough before you make that leap. Yeah, yeah. Sunil Jambal, thank you so much for those points. Awesome. Oh, I am not sharing the whiteboard. Oh god, I thought I was sharing the whiteboard. Yes. LinkedIn user, it's great to meet you too. I don't really know your username because it's not showing your profile. Right, Mansa, should we wait for more questions or?
Have we come to the end of the session, Gaurav?
Yes, yes.
Okay, maybe we will wait for a few questions.
Sure.
We have a question already. How do
How do
you
you manage
manage?
the database part when you're so okay? This is a tech question. Such a difficult one. How do you manage the database part when you're so focused on the application itself? A lot of merchants face a similar challenge. Okay, I'm not sure if it's the same user who's asking this, but how do you manage the database part when you're focused on the application itself? Do you want to manage the database or do you want to understand the database? If you want to understand the database, then either you have to work in it or you have to read about the database. If you are focused on the application, I mean, as an entrepreneur, okay, I'll assume that this is because this is an entrepreneurial talk. I'll assume that you're talking about the application means that what we are building. How can you focus on that when you're focusing on the database? You either don't focus on the database because you have engineers who are working on that, or you do, in which case the application is going to take a hit, which means your product is going to not do so well. So I don't know. Maybe you can give a little more context around that.
Gaurav, another question while we wait for them to give us more clarity on their question. So,
So
was it difficult to move away from a developer mindset and have that years of experience in tech and move on to become a founder and a CEO? Because the challenges are, of course, different. And what would you give, like very high level tips for anybody looking to make that change?
sorry, Mansa, the initial part of it, what who are they?
So the question is, was it very difficult? What was the challenges that you faced while you moved from being a software developer to a CEO? Given that software developer years of experience plus the skills learned in college and otherwise, to becoming somebody who takes up the executive decisions, takes care of finance and everything else, right? Revenue related ideas for the company. How was it? What was the challenging part of it? Plus, what tips do you have for anybody intending to do it?
So yeah, if you're this is it's an interesting question. I actually have quite a few YouTuber friends with me who ask the same question when their earnings go above a particular threshold, after which you have to start registering for GST. Okay, so yeah, accounts, legal, and a lot of the other things that you need to start a business are extremely important, but you don't need to know them end to end. You can outsource this stuff to people who you trust. So, for example, get some professional accountant who can handle your family. It does not make sense. I have actually I learned about finance by myself. It took me a couple of, but it's okay. And I'm like, it's not okay. If it took you a couple of months, those are a couple of months in which you could have been doing more market research, or you could have built a product, or you could have done so many other things, or you could have just slept at home. Your sleep might be more valuable than this stuff, because you're learning something that people already know very well, are experts at. Like accountants are experts at what they're doing. They'll handle your finances far better. And how are you going to save money? Like these guys are experts in that. So if you can claim expenses, if you can do something like that, there are experts who can help you out doing that. That's one is accounts. Another thing is legal team helps a lot, because you can protect your investment. You can protect many things by having sensible legal clauses. Similarly, I mean, people who research a lot on developing an application. I'm going to develop the application myself. Why? If the core thing of this product is the application, is the algorithm, then I can understand that, okay, fine, you came up with this, that's the reason why you want to code it. But there are people who are doing content creation, and what they are doing on the side is learning how to build an app and then building the app. How much is it saving you? 40,000 rupees? Okay, it might be worth it in the start. But honestly, if you think about the cost of your product and seeing the number of sales, if you are selling, let's say, your product for 5,000 rupees, that's 20 sales. Can you make 20 sales in 1 month? You're taking 1 month to create that app, right? How many sales can you make in 1 month? More than 20? It doesn't make sense to just focus on learning JavaScript and Golang and then going and building the product. You can manage it and manage the people who are building the product. You can give them feedback. It is customized, but yeah, it doesn't work. For me personally, like the question is a very good question. I think because it took out so much out of me. Basically, like try to let go as much as you can, while also monitoring and managing people to the extent that you feel is appropriate. I never thought of giving away video editing. Video editing was something which is very close to me. I used to create content, and I always used to think about this video can't be given to other people because they will not be able to do what I do with it. Okay, like properly edit it, put the right animations and stuff. And then I gave it to a video editor, a professional one, who did better than me, and in a shorter amount of time. So I was I was stunned, like I was flabbergasted. That, oh my god! And also, if you can hire people who are hire one person or two people initially. Right now, InterviewReady has 6 people in the full team. So we have video editors, we have content creators, we have a product manager, and there's also legal and account advice that we take. But all you need to do is just let people do their work and manage the product while also clearing out all the difficulties that people have in terms of daily execution. Till now, I still haven't answered your question actually. So the short answer was it was hard to make that switch, but it was much easier for me than many other YouTubers because I realized that to scale this business, to make it a product, I can't have bottlenecks. So I have to outsource.
There are a few
Like,
questions now on the chat.
how do you manage the funding part when you're a core developer? It's not easy for people who are so tech focused. Well, funding is something that you can do, but I have never gone for funding. So I'm not an expert in this topic, firstly. Um, what I have done is it's a self funded startup and it runs on profits. So there's no, I'm now going for 1 billion users and soon enough I'll start making money. It's more like I'm making money and I'm trying to scale that amount. The thing about investments is a little tricky. Uh, One thing that really helps is if you have sales. If you have people who are interested in your product, that is great. So that is viewership, that is reach. But sales is a totally different thing. It's like, that is what makes people believe in your product, right? And then, of course, there is market research. The market predicts that 55% of X does Y. Yes. How many sales have you had? I've had 5,000 sales. Oh, wow. Okay. So the market research is true. Otherwise, it's like, what are you doing wrong? Either the market research is wrong or you are wrong. Right? That's the general idea, basically. So uh, if you're going for pitch, make sure that you have some sales behind you and don't put them in a position of total power. Like you go to them and you say that I have a nice idea and I have really worked at it, but just before the sales pitch, I wanted to come and give you some percentage of the business. You are in a position which is not a position of strength. What's going to happen is they are going to be using, and you don't have sales, right? So there is high risk on their side also. So it's not their fault. But they're going to be taking a large chunk of the company for a small portion of the profits because you haven't proven any profits. So yeah, I would suggest going for sales first. I have an idea and I don't have money. Whom to approach and how to approach? Okay, you can go for startup contests. Yeah, and if you think your idea is going to be stolen over there, don't worry. Uh, yeah, this is how I would put it. Like, there's a lot of people who are scared that their idea will be stolen, which is interesting. But no, that won't happen. Don't worry. Go out there. Even if you, the best thing that could happen is that your idea will be famous before you're ready for it. When you're going around pitching everybody this idea, yeah, uh, yeah, I am, yeah, best to, sorry for all those yeahs, but best to actually tell the maximum number of people that you can about your idea because they can give you feedback and based on that you can improve on your vision. Okay, another thing about a startup that I want to talk about, it's as crazy as money, right? Many people say that money, no, I don't want money. Just like that, many people say that I have a great idea. It's not one idea. It's more like you see an opportunity, a set of opportunities which are opened up in front of you, and then you go in that general direction. You don't go that this particular idea will succeed. Okay, you actually go to build a platform more often than a single dedicated product. Okay, Rajendra Panda is talking about my settlement is in progress. It's been more than a week. I didn't get my.
We
That's
will sort
interesting,
them out.
Rajendra. You should contact your bank, I guess. How to
Could
check
be.
this? How to check the
We'll,
suitability of? Yeah, I'm sorry, Mansa.
yeah, we'll check that out. Please forget that. You can go on to Sunil's question.
Okay, how to check the suitability of a product in beta model? Yeah, I've spoken about this a little bit, Sunil. You need sales. So, okay, suitability of a service in beta model. Well, you can ask people. Uh, that's one way to do. Initially, you'll but go on asking, and through feedback and through word of mouth, you can hope that this will grow. I think what Gaurav is trying to say, that the execution is more important than the idea itself. Yes, yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. Like, at the end of the day, you can have thousands of ideas. I'll give you a great idea right now. Drone delivery. COVID has struck us. Even after COVID, you don't want people delivering food parcels or parcels in general to you, right, at home. How about I just go out on my balcony right now and a drone comes and I pick up my food and I'm sorted? It's going to be cheaper. It's infinitely scalable if you have an algorithm which is directing people from A to B. Okay, wow, isn't that wonderful? Awesome. That's a brilliant idea. Gaurav, you're a trillionaire. It's $1 trillion industry, and now you're going to monopolize it. No, I have a great idea. It's extremely far from implementation. Okay, of course, I'm taking a very extreme example for that. You might have a great idea which is very easily implementable. In which case, you have to think about why are you going to survive in this market? Why will Amazon not crush you the moment they see that, oh, this is an interesting idea, I have a bigger user base, let me crush this person. Right? So if you have a great idea, there needs to be some barrier to entry. If the barrier to entry is not sharing the idea with anybody, then it's not a great idea, or at least it's not a idea that you can make money out of. Anybody, I mean, what are you going to do? If you go and tell your CA that this is the idea, or if you go and tell your engineer that this is the idea, and they go and make it themselves, then you're finished. So what are you going to do? Legally fight them? That's not how you can start a business. You need to pick a sector that you understand better and that you can actually grow through execution in general. Yeah. Okay.
Gaurav, I think we can end the session.
Awesome. So,
We
guys, yeah, thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Mansa, for making this possible. And I hope this was useful to you all. And I hope that if you're thinking about making that switch from a full-time role in a company to a startup, these things might help you. You might actually end up saying that no, I don't want to make that switch, or yes, you want to. But whatever be the case, do look into the points. Personally, it helped me a lot, and I hope it helps you too.
Sure. Thank you so much, Gaurav. Like Gaurav said, I hope everybody who's listening to this, this will help. This session will help make them make the decision for them, and then they actually sit down and just think over it rather than just make the jump. Either ways. Thank you so much again, Gaurav. This has been
Thank you.
wonderful having you. This is for the audience. We do have sessions next week, Tuesday and Thursday. Do join us on LinkedIn, Facebook, as well as YouTube. So thank you so much, guys, for being here today. We will now end the session.